I stood there, my voice shaking, and in the blink of an eye, it all fell apart. The laughter, the mocking, the harsh stares from the judges. It was all too much. I ran out crying, unaware that someone in the shadows had watched it all, and that one moment would change everything. Maya had spent weeks rehearsing her song for the school talent show, a performance she believed would finally give her a chance to shine. The lyrics, carefully chosen for their emotional depth, spoke to her personal struggles, her insecurity, her desire to be seen. But as she stood backstage, the nerves kicked in. Her hands trembled, and the stage lights seemed to grow brighter, hotter, as if they were closing in on her. The curtain lifted, and the audience's murmur became a deafening silence. Maya stepped forward, trying to steady her breath, but the instant she opened her mouth, everything crumbled. Her voice cracked, the notes tumbling out off key. She couldn't see their faces, but she could hear the giggles, the whispers. The harsh whispers of judgment felt like daggers piercing through her skin. As she fought to regain control, her mind swirled with self-doubt. She could hear the judge's faint murmurs, but she dared not look up. It wasn't until she hit the wrong note for the third time that the laughter became unbearable. A few classmates snickered. Some even openly mocked her performance. The panel exchanged glances. She had failed, and it was clear to everyone. She stood frozen for a moment, the spotlight blinding her, feeling every ounce of her vulnerability exposed. Her chest tightened. She wasn't just failing at the talent show. She was failing herself. And then, without another word, she bolted. She couldn't stand the humiliation any longer. Maya ran off stage, her heart pounding in her ears. She dashed into the nearest bathroom, locking herself in a stall, trying to hold back the flood of tears. Her dreams of being seen, of being recognized for something she was passionate about, had crumbled in front of an audience. The only thing left was the sting of rejection. But what Maya didn't know was that someone had seen the entire thing unfold. From the corner of the auditorium, in the shadows where no one else noticed, a stranger had been watching. The woman had seen her potential, seen her pain, and in that moment, she made a decision. Maya sat on the edge of the bathroom sink, her hands still trembling from the performance. Her face was buried in her hands, her tears mixing with the makeup that had now long smudged away. She replayed the moment over and over in her head, each failed note, each mocking laugh. Her confidence was shattered, and she couldn't see how she could ever step foot on a stage again. Suddenly, a soft knock on the bathroom door startled her. She quickly wiped her face, trying to compose herself. "Who is it?" she called out, her voice hoarse from crying. The door opened slightly, and a woman stepped in, her presence commanding yet gentle. She was older, with silver hair pulled back into a tight bun, and her clothes were nothing fancy, just a worn leather jacket and faded jeans. She looked strangely familiar, though Maya couldn't place her. The woman closed the door softly behind her, her eyes not judging but understanding. "You don't have to hide, you know. I saw everything." Maya's first instinct was to brush her off, to demand privacy. But there was something in the woman's voice that stopped her. I just can't do this," Maya whispered, her shoulders sagging. "I don't know why I thought I could sing in front of people. I'm not good enough." The woman took a step closer, sitting down beside her. "You're not bad," she said, her voice low and firm. "You're just singing someone else's truth, not your own." Maya looked up, confusion written across her face. "What do you mean?" The woman smiled faintly, as though remembering something from long ago. "I was just like you. I thought I was a failure because I was too scared to be myself. I spent years trying to sing the way others thought I should, trying to fit into the mold they created for me." Maya listened intently, unsure of what to make of this woman who seemed to know exactly what she was feeling. I used to be a singer, the woman continued, her gaze turning distant. A long time ago, but I let fear and self-doubt stop me from reaching my full potential. Now, I see that fear in you. You've got talent, Maya, but you're holding yourself back. Maya's heart skipped a beat. She'd heard that line before from her parents, from her friends, people who were always trying to comfort her. But something about this woman's words felt different. There was an authority in them, as though she had walked this path herself and knew where it could lead. I'm not sure I can do it, Maya whispered, feeling a mix of hope and doubt. The woman's smile grew more genuine. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to find your voice. Your real voice. I can help you with that. Maya looked up at her, her heart pounding. Who was this woman? And why was she offering to help her? Why are you helping me? The woman paused for a moment, her gaze intense. Because I've been where you are, and no one helped me. Maya sat still for a moment, processing what the woman had just said. She wasn't sure what was happening, or even if she should trust this stranger. But something about the way the woman spoke, the depth in her voice, the sincerity, made her feel like she could. The tears that had overwhelmed her earlier were beginning to subside, replaced by an unfamiliar flicker of curiosity. Who are you? Maya asked, her voice softer now. The woman gave a small smile, her eyes a mix of sadness and wisdom. My name is Ms. Vega. She paused, as though weighing whether to share more. I was a singer once. Not too long ago, actually. Maya's eyebrows furrowed. She was a singer? The idea seemed almost surreal. This woman, clearly much older than Maya, had once stood on the same stages she had dreamed of performing on. Yet here she was, standing in a school bathroom, offering to help a girl she barely knew. Why aren't you singing anymore? Maya asked, her voice hesitant. Ms. Vega shifted in her seat, her gaze moving to the small window above the sink, as if recalling a distant memory. I stopped because I was scared, she said quietly, almost to herself. I let fear control me. I let the critics, the bullies, the people who told me I wasn't good enough, dictate my future. Maya's eyes widened. She had never imagined this woman, so confident, so strong, had ever experienced the same fears she herself felt. Ms. Vega turned her attention back to Maya. I thought my failure was permanent. I spent years trying to hide, thinking that no one would ever want to hear me sing again. But I was wrong. I didn't fail because I wasn't good enough. I failed because I let fear take over, and I tried to be something I wasn't. Maya's chest tightened. She could relate to that. She had been doing the same thing, pretending to be someone else, trying to meet other people's expectations. She had tried to mold herself into the ideal image of what a talented performer should be, rather than embracing who she truly was. But how did you come back? Maya asked, feeling a spark of hope. Ms. Vega let out a soft sigh, a look of regret and acceptance flashing across her face. I never really came back. Not the way I wanted to, anyway. I let stage fright ruin my career. I was terrified of people laughing at me, just like you were today. But one thing I've learned is this. If you don't face your fear, you'll never grow. Maya felt a lump form in her throat. She had always been afraid to be herself, afraid of rejection. She had tried to hide it, tried to convince herself it didn't matter, but it did. This fear had been holding her back from pursuing her dreams, just like it had with Ms. Vega. Ms. Vega's expression softened, and she reached out, placing a hand on Maya's shoulder. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not easy. You'll face rejection, people will mock you, and at times you might feel like giving up. But if you're willing to trust me, I can help you find your true voice. Not the voice you think you should have, but the one that comes from within. Maya swallowed hard, looking down at her hands. What if I fail again? She whispered. Miss Vega smiled knowingly. Failing is part of the process. The real failure is when you stop trying. You won't find success by being perfect, Maya. You'll find it by being brave enough to keep going, even when everything around you seems to be falling apart. The words hit Maya harder than she expected. She had never considered that failure was just a stepping stone, not the end of the road. All she had to do was keep going. Ms. Vega stood up and moved toward the door, pausing just before she left. I swore I'd never teach anyone. I thought my time was over. But when I saw you today, I saw something in you. Something that reminded me of myself when I was young. I can't promise you'll be a star, but I can promise you that you'll be better than you are now. That's all any of us can ask for. Maya felt a warmth spread through her chest. It wasn't the immediate validation she had craved all her life, but it was something more meaningful. It was hope, the kind she hadn't felt in a long time. Okay, Maya said, her voice quiet but steady. I'll trust you. Ms. Vega smiled, a faint but proud grin that spoke volumes. Good. Let's start today. You're not going to get it right overnight, but we'll work together. And maybe, just maybe, you'll find the strength to show everyone who you really are. Maya's first lesson with Ms. Vega was nothing like she had imagined. There were no fancy vocal exercises or long hours spent in front of mirrors, no promises of instant success. Instead, Ms. Vega led her to a small, dimly lit room in the back of the community center. It smelled faintly of dust and old wood, but there was something comforting about it, like it held the memories of countless artists before her. The room was simple. An old piano in one corner, a few chairs, and a dusty stage with worn curtains. A single spotlight hung from the ceiling, casting a lonely beam of light onto the empty stage. You're going to start here, Ms. Vega said, pointing to the piano. But not with a song. You're going to start with yourself. Maya stared at her, confused. What do you mean? Ms. Vega sat down on a chair, folding her arms. I can't teach you how to sing until you learn why you're afraid to sing in the first place. Singing isn't just about hitting the right notes or looking good on stage. It's about expressing who you are. But you won't be able to do that until you let go of the fear and doubt holding you back. Maya sat down across from her, still unsure of what was happening. But what if I can't? What if I'm just not good enough? Ms. Vega leaned forward, her eyes piercing through Maya with an intensity that made her heart race. You've already decided you're not good enough. That's your problem. You're trying to sing someone else's truth, trying to be perfect, to please everyone. You need to let go of that, or you'll always be stuck. Maya swallowed hard, her throat tightening. She had never thought about it that way. Her entire life had been about seeking approval, trying to meet everyone else's expectations. But this was different. It was uncomfortable, but it felt right. Ms. Vega stood and walked over to the piano. We'll start with something simple. I want you to sing, but not a song. I want you to sing your fears. Maya blinked, unsure she had heard right. My fears? Ms. Vega nodded. Yes. Sing the things that scare you the most. Sing the doubts, the worries, the voices telling you that you'll never be good enough. Let it all out. Maya hesitated, unsure of what to do. The thought of singing her fears seemed absurd, almost too personal. But as she glanced at Miss Vega, she saw something in her eyes, a kind of knowing, like she had been through this exact struggle before. Tentatively, Maya stood and approached the piano. Her fingers hovered over the keys as she closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. For a moment, the room felt suffocating, the weight of her own doubt pressing against her chest. Then she started to sing. It wasn't a song, just a melody filled with broken notes and raw emotion. She sang of her insecurities, the voices in her head that told her she wasn't good enough, the fear of being laughed at, the shame of failing. Her voice cracked as she sang, but she didn't stop. Ms. Vega watched silently, her face unreadable. When Maya finished, she opened her eyes and saw the older woman nodding. "That was a start," Ms. Vega said quietly. "You're not ready yet, but you've taken the first step. You've let go of some of the fear, and now we'll rebuild." Maya felt a wave of exhaustion wash over her, but also a strange sense of relief. For the first time, she wasn't pretending to be someone she wasn't. She was singing her truth, no matter how messy or imperfect it was. Ms. Vega moved to the piano and played a soft, simple melody. "Now we'll start again. You'll sing your truth, but this time we'll do it with strength, with purpose." Maya nodded, taking another deep breath. She wasn't sure if she was ready for what was to come, but she knew she couldn't go back to hiding anymore. She had taken the first step toward finding herself, toward reclaiming the voice she had lost. As Miss Vega guided her through the next exercise, Maya felt something inside her begin to shift. She wasn't perfect, and she never would be. But that was okay. She didn't need to be perfect. She just needed to be true. Maya sat nervously in the small, worn-out chair at the nursing home. The soft hum of the old air conditioner mixed with the low murmur of voices in the background. The room was small, with aging wooden floors and floral-patterned wallpaper peeling at the edges. It was far from the grand stage she had once dreamed of performing on, but it was a stage nonetheless. This was Ms. Vega's idea, a test of sorts. The nursing home residents, many of whom had seen better days, would be the first audience to witness her relaunch. Maya had protested at first, thinking it was a step backward. She'd always imagined performing in front of crowds, in auditoriums filled with lights and cheers. But Ms. Vega had insisted this was where Maya would learn to find her true voice, before the applause, before the judgment. "You're not performing for the crowd, Maya," Ms. Vega had told her. "You're performing for yourself. You're proving to yourself that you can sing for the right reasons, not for approval." Now, as Maya waited backstage, her nerves bubbled up again. Her hands trembled as she gripped the music sheet, and she couldn't help but wonder if she was making a mistake. The last time she had sung in front of anyone, it had been a disaster. Everyone had laughed, and she had run away crying. Would this time be any different? Ms. Vega appeared next to her, placing a firm hand on her shoulder. "It's going to be fine. Just remember, you're not performing to win anyone over. You're performing to remind yourself why you started this journey in the first place. You're doing this for you." Maya took a shaky breath. "But what if they don't like it? What if I fail again?" Ms. Vega's expression softened. "Failing doesn't mean you've lost. It just means you've learned something new. Trust me, I've been through far worse than this. I've had to face failure head-on, and it's taught me more than success ever could." Maya nodded, her heart still pounding, but she trusted Ms. Vega. She took a final breath and walked to the front of the room, her footsteps echoing softly in the quiet space. The residents were scattered throughout the room, some in wheelchairs, others lying in recliners. A few gave her small, encouraging smiles, while others didn't seem to notice her at all. Maya stood in front of them, feeling the weight of their eyes on her. She glanced over at Ms. Vega, who gave her a reassuring nod. It was time. Maya took her place in front of the microphone and glanced down at the sheet in her hands. The first note of the song came out shakily, but she quickly steadied herself, focusing on the words instead of the fear clawing at her chest. The song she had chosen was simple, but it carried meaning. About resilience, about finding strength even when everything seemed lost. As the song continued, Maya began to feel a shift. She wasn't perfect, but she wasn't trying to be. She focused on the meaning behind the words, letting them fill the space between her and the audience. For the first time, she wasn't worrying about how she sounded or how the audience might react. She just sang. The applause that followed was light, A few claps here and there, but it didn't matter. Maya's heart felt lighter than it had in a long time. She had done it. She had sung in front of an audience, and she hadn't run away. As she stepped down from the stage, Miss Vega was already waiting for her, a proud smile on her face. "How did it feel?" she asked. Maya's lips curved into a small smile. "It felt right. It wasn't perfect, but it felt real." Ms. Vega nodded approvingly. "That's the first step. Perfection is overrated, Maya. What matters is that you showed up. You gave them your truth, and that's what will make all the difference in the long run." Maya looked around at the elderly faces watching her, some with tears in their eyes, others simply nodding in quiet appreciation. These were the people who had seen so much of life, the ones who understood loss, hardship, and the quiet beauty in simple moments. She had started to reclaim her voice here, in this humble space, surrounded by people who would never mock her. This was just the beginning. The first test had been passed. The next few weeks felt like a blur of late nights spent rehearsing, vocal exercises, and lessons with Ms. Vega. Every time Maya stood before the mirror, singing through her fears, she could feel herself growing stronger. She was beginning to believe that she could do this, that she was capable of being more than the shy, awkward girl who had once cowered in the face of ridicule. But not everyone was on her side. As her training progressed, the whispers started. It began with small comments from her classmates in the hallway, sarcastic laughs, mocking glances, and whispers about her sudden transformation. Some of them were curious, asking her about the lessons she was taking with Ms. Vega, but others were downright cruel. Maya tried to ignore it, focusing on the music, but the bullying escalated. One afternoon, as she was leaving school, she overheard a conversation in the locker room. "You heard, right?" One girl snickered. "Maya's actually getting lessons from that weird lady. Thinks she's going to be the next big thing, singing in front of a bunch of people. It's pathetic." The words stung, but they were nothing compared to what came next. A few days later, while Maya was practicing at Ms. Vega's place, one of her classmates, Tara, the most outspoken of the bullies, came up to her during a break. "Did you really think you could do this?" Tara sneered. "You've been the joke of the school for so long, and now you're going to act like you're some kind of singer? Please." Maya clenched her fists, the old feelings of doubt creeping back. She had been trying to ignore them, trying to build her confidence. But every time Tara spoke, the words hit her like a punch to the gut. The insecurity she had tried so hard to bury began to resurface, threatening to undo all the progress she had made. "That's not who I am anymore," Maya muttered, trying to stand her ground. Tara laughed, crossing her arms. "Keep telling yourself that. You're just wasting your time. You'll never be good enough. You'll always be the girl who can't sing." Before Maya could respond, Tara walked off, her laughter echoing in the hallway. Maya stood there for a moment, frozen. She knew it was a test, her first real test. The world around her was trying to pull her back into the shadows, to force her to retreat into her old self. She had been hiding for so long, and now it seemed like the world wanted her to stay hidden. Maya fought back the tears that were threatening to spill. She wasn't going to let this defeat her. Not now, not after everything she had worked for. She had come too far to back down. That evening, when she met with Ms. Vega, she couldn't hold it in any longer. "I don't know if I can keep doing this," Maya confessed, her voice shaking. "The others, they keep making fun of me. They say I'll never make it." Ms. Vega looked at her with an understanding that only someone who had been through it could offer. Bullies will always find something to tear down. They do it because they're afraid of what you could become. But you're not doing this for them. You're doing it for yourself. Maya nodded, her heart still heavy with doubt. But what if they're right? What if I'm just wasting my time? Ms. Vega stood up, walking over to a box in the corner of the room. She pulled out a broken microphone, its wires frayed, and handed it to Maya. "You see this?" she asked. "This microphone has been through a lot. It's been dropped, stepped on, and treated like trash. But it still works, doesn't it?" Maya nodded, looking at the microphone in her hands. "Sometimes," Ms. Vega continued, "we're like that microphone. We get broken down by others, by our own fears, and by everything that tries to stop us. But if we don't give up, if we keep going, we can still do what we were meant to do, no matter how many times we fall." Maya looked down at the microphone, then back up at Ms. Vega, determination filling her chest. She wasn't going to let Tara or anyone else define her. She wasn't going to let fear take over again. The next day, Maya returned to school with a new resolve. She wasn't going to hide. She wasn't going to shrink back into the girl who let others control her destiny. She was going to face this head on, no matter how difficult it was. Maya was standing at the window, watching the rain fall outside. It was one of those cold, relentless storms that seemed to match the heaviness in her heart. The bullying had escalated, and the mocking was no longer confined to the halls. Even her classmates, who had once been neutral, now looked at her with pity or disdain. She felt the weight of their judgment every time she walked into a room. But in the midst of all this, Ms. Vega had a plan. The old woman had been unusually quiet the past few days, observing Maya's struggle with a knowing look. But now she turned to Maya with a glint in her eye. "We're not done yet," Ms. Vega said. "This is just the beginning." Maya raised an eyebrow, confused. "What do you mean?" "I feel like I'm losing everything. The more I try, the more I fail." Ms. Vega smiled, a knowing smirk on her lips. "The world can be cruel, Maya. But you don't need their approval. You need to prove to yourself that you can stand tall in the face of it all. I've arranged a little something, a chance for you to reclaim your confidence." Maya looked up, her interest piqued. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice tinged with hope, but also doubt. Ms. Vega handed her a small envelope. "You've been practicing in private, staying out of the spotlight. It's time to take what you've learned and test it. But this time, we're doing it differently. This isn't about them, it's about you." Maya slowly opened the envelope. Inside was a small, handwritten note with the details of a local cafe performance. "A secret gig?" she asked, her voice trembling. "In front of strangers?" Ms. Vega nodded. "It's time to get out of your comfort zone. No one there will know your name. No one will expect anything from you. Just sing your truth. No judgment, no pretenses. Just you and your voice." Maya's heart raced at the thought. It was the opportunity she had been waiting for, but it also terrified her. After everything she had been through, could she really get on stage again and perform for an audience, even one of strangers? Ms. Vega must have sensed her hesitation. "It's about reclaiming what they tried to take from you, the belief in yourself. And it's not about doing it perfectly, Maya. It's about showing up." The night of the performance, Maya stood in front of the cafe's stage, a small, intimate space with warm lighting and an old-fashioned microphone. A few people milled around, drinking coffee and chatting. The atmosphere was relaxed, nothing like the harsh, judgmental stares she was used to in school. Still, the nerves gripped her, like a vice on her chest. She took a deep breath as Ms. Vega gave her a nod of encouragement from the side of the stage. It wasn't the large crowd she had once dreamed of singing for, but it felt bigger than any stage she had ever been on. For the first time, Maya wasn't doing it for anyone else. She wasn't looking for validation or applause. This was her chance to prove to herself that she was enough. As she stepped onto the stage, the audience barely noticed her at first, which was just what she needed. There was no pressure, no spotlight, just the soft murmur of conversation in the background. Maya adjusted the microphone and looked at her sheet music, then closed her eyes. The song she had chosen was one she had rewritten herself. Her own fears and hopes, her own struggles with self-doubt and insecurity. She started to sing. At first, her voice was shaky, a little unsure, but with every note, it grew steadier. She didn't care that the crowd wasn't hanging on her every word. She didn't care that she wasn't perfect. For the first time, she felt like she was just herself. No pretenses, no need to impress anyone. Just a girl singing the truth of her own heart. As the last note lingered in the air, she opened her eyes, startled by the silence that had fallen over the room. The audience, a handful of strangers, sat still, listening. Maya held her breath, waiting for the inevitable judgment. But instead of the mockery she had feared, a soft applause began to ripple through the cafe. Some of the patrons smiled at her. A few nodded in appreciation. Maya stepped down from the stage, her heart still pounding, but now there was a sense of triumph that replaced the fear. She had done it. She had faced the stage again, not for anyone else, but for herself. She had reclaimed something she thought she'd lost forever. As she walked back to Ms. Vega, the older woman's face lit up with pride. "You did it," she said quietly. "You sang from your heart, and that's the most important thing. You're not here to please anyone but yourself. That's the true test of success." Maya smiled, tears of relief welling in her eyes. She hadn't just sung a song that night. She had reclaimed her voice. And in that moment, she knew the journey wasn't over yet. This was only the beginning. The weeks that followed the cafe performance were some of the most challenging and rewarding of Maya's life. She had felt a shift within herself, a sense of strength that she hadn't known was possible. Each practice session with Ms. Vega had brought her closer to the person she wanted to be, the confident, fearless singer who wasn't afraid of judgment. But as much as she had grown, there was still one more obstacle she hadn't anticipated: her parents. It wasn't that they didn't support her. At least, that's what Maya had thought. They had always encouraged her to follow her dreams, but only when those dreams fit into the mold they had created for her. They wanted her to be practical, to focus on her studies, to think about her future in a realistic way. And now, they were beginning to question her commitment to her music. It started one evening when Maya was sitting at the kitchen table, working through her homework. Her mother sat across from her, glancing up from her phone with a concerned expression. "Maya, can we talk?" her mother asked gently, setting the phone down. Maya's stomach twisted. She had a feeling she knew where this was going. "Sure, what's up?" "I've been thinking," her mother began, her voice laced with hesitation, "about your focus on music. I understand you've been taking lessons, but I think you need to realize that this is just a hobby. You can't build your life around something like this. You need to focus on your future, on your education. Your grades are slipping, and you're spending all this time rehearsing and practicing." For what? Maya's heart sank. She had expected her mother to be supportive of her growth, of her passion, but instead, she felt like her dreams were being dismissed. "Mom, this is important to me. Music isn't just a hobby. It's something I'm really trying to build. I've been working hard, and I've seen progress." Her mother shook her head, her expression softening but firm. "I know you think it's important now, but this isn't something that's going to get you anywhere in the long run. You need to focus on school, on getting into college. Music won't pay the bills or secure your future." Maya's hands clenched into fists under the table. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. She had come so far, worked so hard, and her own mother was telling her that it didn't matter. "I don't understand why you can't just listen to reason, Maya," her mother continued. "You're wasting your time with this music stuff. Focus on your grades, on your future. Everything else is just a distraction." Maya stood up, her chair scraping harshly against the floor. "I don't want to talk about this right now. I'm going to practice." "That's exactly what I mean," her mother replied, her voice rising. "You're ignoring everything else for something that will never amount to anything. This obsession with music is going to ruin your chances at a real future." Maya felt the sharp sting of betrayal cut through her chest. She had been so sure that her family would support her, that they would see her determination and the progress she had made. But now it felt like all those dreams were being shut down by the people she loved most. She ran to her room, slamming the door behind her. As she sank onto her bed, the tears came flooding out. She had always done what they asked, followed the path they set out for her. But this time, her heart pulled her in a different direction. She wanted to follow her passion. She wanted to prove to herself that she could make it. But it was hard to keep going when the people who were supposed to lift her up were the ones pushing her down. Her phone buzzed, and Maya wiped her eyes to look at the screen. It was a message from Ms. Vega. "Meet me tomorrow. I have something important to discuss." Maya wiped her tears and typed back quickly. "I can't, Ms. Vega. My parents. They want me to quit. They want me to focus on school and forget about singing." The message came back almost instantly. "Don't let anyone tell you what you can or can't do. You're on the right path. Meet me tomorrow. I'll be waiting." Maya looked at the message, feeling a spark of hope reignite in her chest. She couldn't let her parents dictate her life. This was her dream, her journey, and she couldn't give up just because it wasn't what they wanted for her. The next day, she met Ms. Vega in the small room where they had begun their training weeks ago. The older woman greeted her with a warm, understanding smile, her eyes gleaming with purpose. "I know it's tough," Ms. Vega said, as Maya sat down across from her. "But you can't let their doubts become your own. Your family might want what's best for you, but they don't know your heart. You do." Maya looked up at her mentor, her chest tightening. "But they're my family. I don't want to disappoint them." "You won't disappoint them by following your heart," Ms. Vega replied. "You'll disappoint them by living a life that isn't yours. You don't have to choose between them and your dreams. But you do have to stand firm in your belief that this is your path." Maya nodded slowly, taking a deep breath. She wasn't going to let this setback hold her back. The path ahead wasn't easy, but it was hers. She wasn't going to let anyone, not even the people she loved most, make her give it up. The day of the school talent show arrived, and Maya could hardly believe it. After all the struggles, the doubts, and the fears, she was finally standing at the edge of her biggest challenge yet. This wasn't just another performance. This was her comeback. This was her chance to prove to everyone, including herself, that she could overcome the judgment, the bullying, and the betrayal she had faced. She stood backstage, the noise of the excited crowd just beyond the curtains. The chatter, the laughter, the rustling of programs. It all felt distant, almost surreal. Maya's heart pounded in her chest, a fierce drumbeat that threatened to drown out everything else. She was alone, but she wasn't. Ms. Vega's words echoed in her mind, giving her strength. "You're not doing this for them. You're doing this for you." Maya's fingers tightened around the microphone. She had spent countless hours practicing, but now it was real. The stage was set, and it felt like the weight of every moment she had ever hesitated in her life was pressing on her shoulders. But this was different. She wasn't the girl who had been laughed at. She wasn't the girl who had run off stage in tears. This time, she was the girl who had fought for her place here. Ms. Vega appeared beside her, giving her an encouraging nod. "You've got this," she said, her voice steady and calm. "Just remember, no matter what happens, you've already won. You found your voice. That's what matters." Maya nodded, her throat tight. She couldn't speak. Her emotions were too overwhelming. This was the moment she had been waiting for. The culmination of all the effort she had put in, the nights she had spent working through her fears, the lessons with Ms. Vega, and the tears she had shed when she thought she couldn't go on. The announcer's voice broke through her thoughts, calling her name. "Next up, Maya." She's been working hard for this moment, so let's give her a warm welcome. The crowd's applause felt like a distant rumble as Maya stepped forward, the lights blinding her for a moment before her eyes adjusted. She walked to the center of the stage, her hands trembling but steady enough to grip the mic. She looked out at the audience, her classmates, her friends, the bullies, and even her parents who were sitting in the front row. Her mother's gaze was filled with expectation, but also doubt, as if she was waiting for Maya to fail so she could be proven right. The judges were seated at their table, their pens poised to write down their critique. Maya's throat tightened. The old fears, the self-doubt, and the voices telling her she wasn't good enough threatened to choke her, but she shook them off. Taking a deep breath, she closed her eyes for a moment. "This is for me," she thought. "This is my truth. This is my voice." The music began, a soft piano intro that Maya had practiced 1,000 times in her head. As the first note escaped her lips, her voice shook slightly, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was from raw emotion. She poured everything into the song: the pain, the struggle, the moments of self-doubt, and the moments of triumph. She sang of the journey, the path that had led her here, and she let the words carry her. The audience was silent, hanging on to every note. Maya couldn't hear their reactions. She only heard the music, the rhythm of her own heartbeat, and the truth of her voice. And then, as the song neared its climax, it happened. The same fear that had paralyzed her before threatened to stop her. She hit a note that faltered, her breath catching. The harsh judgment she had feared for so long came rushing back, and for a split second, her mind screamed, "You can't do this." But then, she locked eyes with someone in the audience. It was Ms. Vega, standing near the back, her face calm and filled with pride. Her presence grounded Maya, reminding her of everything she had fought for. Maya swallowed the panic that had started to rise in her chest and steadied her breath. She couldn't let this moment slip away. She wasn't going to freeze again. With a renewed sense of determination, Maya continued, the notes flowing smoothly once more. She reached the final chorus, her voice soaring with strength and clarity. When the last note rang out, she stood still, her body trembling but strong. She opened her eyes and looked around. The auditorium was quiet, but the silence felt different. It wasn't judgment, it was anticipation. And then, it happened. The audience erupted into applause. Maya's heart raced in disbelief as the sound washed over her. It wasn't just polite clapping, it was genuine appreciation. People were on their feet, cheering. Her classmates, even Tara, who had mocked her in the past, were applauding. Her parents were clapping too, her mother's face a mixture of surprise and pride. Maya stood frozen for a moment, not sure if she could believe it. But then a smile slowly spread across her face. She had done it. She had faced her fears, stood in front of the crowd, and shared her voice. The standing ovation wasn't just for her. It was for the person she had become. As she walked off the stage, Ms. Vega was waiting for her, her eyes shining with pride. "You did it," she said softly. Maya looked at her with tears in her eyes. "I did. I really did." Maya walked off the stage, her hands still trembling with the intensity of the performance. The echoes of applause still rang in her ears, but her mind was a blur. It felt like a dream, a whirlwind of emotions that she couldn't quite comprehend. She had done it. She had faced the stage, faced her fears, and given her all. But as she made her way toward the backstage area, she was met by a strange feeling of finality. She had taken her biggest step, and now everything felt different. The crowd's cheers were a distant hum, and for a brief moment, Maya's thoughts turned inward. She had poured her heart out tonight, and it was all for herself, her growth, her redemption. As she rounded the corner backstage, she saw Ms. Vega waiting for her, her face glowing with pride. But there was something else in Ms. Vega's eyes, something Maya hadn't noticed before. "Ms. Vega?" Maya asked, her voice still trembling slightly. "Did you see it? Did you hear them? They applauded. But before Maya could finish, Ms. Vega cut her off with a gentle yet firm smile. Maya, I'm proud of you, but there's something I need to tell you. Maya's heart skipped a beat. The confidence that had surged within her just moments ago started to waver. What do you mean? What's going on? Ms. Vega took a deep breath, as though weighing how to explain something difficult. I didn't just see your performance tonight. I've been watching you for a while now, and I need you to understand something important. Maya frowned. What do you mean? Ms. Vega looked away for a moment, her eyes softening with a mixture of sorrow and pride. I'm not just your mentor, Maya. I never was. I've been where you are, but I also know the truth. You've been helping me just as much as I've been helping you. Maya's heart skipped a beat. What are you talking about? Ms. Vega paused, and when she spoke again, her voice trembled slightly. I'm not going to be around much longer. Maya's mind spun. What? What do you mean? What's going on? Ms. Vega sat down on a nearby chair, and for the first time she looked her age. Her once vibrant energy seemed to have drained away. I've been fighting an illness for a while, Maya. Cancer. It's not something I've wanted to talk about, but you deserve to know the truth. I came into your life not just as a mentor, but because I wanted to leave behind a legacy. I wanted to help someone else find their voice before I lost my own. Maya felt her world tilt. The woman who had given her so much, hope, strength, and courage, was now fighting a battle she could never have imagined. The news hit her like a ton of bricks, and she felt the weight of it settle heavily in her chest. Ms. Vega, I didn't know. I never knew. Why didn't you tell me? Maya stammered, her eyes filling with tears. Ms. Vega smiled faintly. Because I didn't need you to pity me. I wanted to teach you something that would stay with you. You see, Maya, I didn't need to be the star. I didn't need to win the applause. What matters is that I gave you the tools to find your voice. You are now the one who can keep singing, long after I'm gone. Maya knelt in front of her, her heart breaking as she finally understood the depth of the sacrifice Ms. Vega had made for her. The woman had taken her own pain, her own fear, and turned it into a gift, helping Maya discover who she truly was, who she could become. I'm sorry, Maya whispered. I never knew. I never realized what you were doing for me. Ms. Vega shook her head, her smile still gentle. There's nothing to apologize for, Maya. You're going to do great things. You've already started. And now it's your turn to help others find their voice, just like I helped you. Tears streamed down Maya's face as she held Ms. Vega's hand. I won't let you down. I'll carry on. I'll keep singing. For you. Ms. Vega gave one last soft chuckle, her grip weakening as she leaned back. That's all I've ever wanted to hear. As Maya stood up and turned to leave, she felt a deep sense of peace wash over her. She had found her voice. She had faced her fears and conquered them. But more than that, she understood now that true redemption wasn't just about standing on a stage or winning applause. It was about embracing who you were, no matter the obstacles. And with Ms. Vega's final gift, Maya knew that her journey had just begun. She would sing for herself, yes, but she would also sing for the legacy of the woman who had believed in her when no one else did. Years later, I stood where she once did, teaching a girl with trembling hands,